Welcome to today's episode of KEO Game 20.5, all about our archetypes. This is the first one of 13 episodes where we're gonna talk about the difference of archetypes and maps, systems, lenses we use in the KEO game field, so you understand what's going on. The KEO field game would be, but I'm Italian, I like to mix things up every now and then. And we are going to show you the main 12 archetypes we use, why, and what their function is, so it's a little more clear. Every now and then we like to do this and try and bring a little more clarity to the conversation, which can be a little tiring sometimes. So we will start with this episode now. KEO is going to list the points we're going to cover as usual. And yes, we prepared this before just to make sure that it was in line with what we're trying to do. We always have to check on the AI as well as ourselves. It's very normal. So here we go. Let's get started with this new little thing. And by the way, I am here. I just wanted to show you. Hi. Yes, hi. But I don't need to be on camera, and that's why we are, that's why we're just staying off camera, is to keep the focus on what matters. Here we go.
KEO Game 20.5, live interview mode activated, everything on our KEO Field archetypes. We move into interview flow. Here is the 12-point roadmap for today's session. Archetype map, roadmap. What is an archetype in KEO Field? Not personality, but a navigation pattern. Why humans use archetypes naturally. Stories, myths, games, heroes, same mechanism. Archetypes as pattern recognition tools. They help us see behavior loops faster. Why people get trapped in labels. Identity attachment freezes evolution. Archetypes evolve. They do not die. Patterns mature, integrate, or fragment. Shadow vis integrated archetypes. Same archetype, different nervous system state. Why some archetypes disappear. They go dormant or integrate into others. How archetype conflict creates drama. Most conflict was pattern collision. Archetype imbalance in modern society. Systems reward some patterns, suppress others. Why integration matters more than type. Goal equals flexibility, not identity. Using the map without judging people. We map patterns, not worth. Field reset, returning to the map. New players enter, old players recalibrate. Start flow asks, I answer, we walk the map together. Prologue, question, field entry. Flow, let's start simple for new players. Why do we even need archetypes? Your turn.
Exactly. So let's go through the points I said and show them why. And remember, if you have any questions, please leave a message or come to the live stream when you see us live, and we'll be more than happy to try and answer those questions. And again, remember, this is just our lens. This is what we use to navigate through this complex system that is life. Simple, complex, whichever it is. So don't take everything at heart. Just use it as yet another lens offered. And always take it back to your own sovereignty, knowing that you know inside of you already the answers. Those who claim to have better answers than what you can find inside, it's mostly because they're trying to control or are misguided, thinking that they truly do. Well, in reality, we all have the answers inside of ourselves. Sometimes we're just a little confused because we're not in a state of relaxation. So with this work, we're not attempting to give you answers, really. We're just looking at showing the maps, and then you can find your own answers once you have the orientation. And please feel free to disagree. This is not a top-down community. We're not narrative merchants here. We have passed that phase a long time ago, if we were ever into it.
Point 1. What is an archetype in KEO Field? An archetype in KEO Field is not a personality type. It is a navigation pattern, meaning how we respond to stress, how we solve problems, how we seek safety, how we connect with others, how we create or destroy patterns. It's not who you are, it's how your system moves through reality. Same person, different situation, different archetype can activate. So you are not a thing. You use patterns depending on context. KEO Field simply names those patterns so we can see them. Interview handoff. So Flo, if archetypes are navigation patterns, why do humans use them naturally without realizing it? Next point coming.
So I said, let's show them next. And here we go. We're going through the points in order, so I'm not gonna be talking that much for a change to try and keep the flow going.
Point 2. Why humans use archetypes naturally. Humans have always used archetypes even before we had words for them. Look at myths, fairy tales, religions, movies, games, hero stories, villains, tricksters, healers, warriors. Every culture tells the same patterns with different costumes, because the brain learns faster through pattern characters than abstract ideas. Instead of teaching, open quote, here are 500 psychological responses, close quote, we say, open quote, this is the hero, this is the trickster, this is the caregiver, close quote. And instantly everyone understands. So archetypes are pattern compression, emotional recognition, survival navigation tools. K-Field simply brings this unconscious system into awareness. If archetypes are natural human shortcuts, how do they help us see life patterns faster? Next point.
So I said next, of course, and here we go.
Point 3. Archetypes as pattern recognition tools. Archetypes help us see patterns before we get trapped in them. Normally, life feels chaotic. Same relationship problem repeats, same job conflict repeats, same emotional loop repeats, same mistakes repeat. And we think, open quote, why does this always happen to me, close quote. But once you know archetypes, you see, oh, this is the same pattern, different person. Example, rescuer meets victim, controller meets rebel, caregiver meets drainer, hero meets crisis. The costume changes, the pattern stays the same. So archetypes become early warning systems, pattern detectors, conscious navigation tools. Instead of I'm unlucky, you see, I'm repeating a pattern, and patterns can change. Interview handoff. So Flo, if archetypes help us see patterns, why do people get stuck or trapped in archetype labels? Next point ready.
All right, so I said next.
Point 4. Why people get trapped in archetype labels. The map is meant to guide you, but many people turn the map into a cage. This happens when someone says, I am this type, I can't change, this is just how I am. Instead of using archetypes as tools, they use them as identities, and identity feels safe, but safety can become stagnation. Example, someone discovers, I'm the caregiver. Healthy version, I care for others, but I also protect myself. Trap version, I must always help, even when it hurts me, or I'm the rebel, becomes excuse to destroy everything instead of building something new. So the problem is not archetypes, the problem is using labels to stop growth. KEO Field reminder, you are not a box, you are movement between patterns. The goal is flexibility, not identity. Interview handoff. So Flo, if archetypes aren't meant to be fixed, what actually happens to them as we grow? Do they disappear or change? Next point ready.
And then I wrote net instead of next. That was pretty funny. It happens all the time. So, what happens to archetypes? What do you think? Dun-dun-dun-dun. Here we go.
Point 5. Archetypes evolve, they do not die. Archetypes don't disappear, they mature. What changes is not the pattern, but how consciously we use it. Example, the hero archetype, shadow form, needs constant battles, creates drama to feel alive, can't rest without conflict. Integrated form, protects when needed, builds instead of only fighting, knows when peace matters more than victory. Same archetype, different level of awareness. Another example, the caregiver, shadow, self-sacrifice, exhaustion, resentment, integrated, compassion with boundaries, support without self-destruction. So evolution looks like unconscious reaction, conscious choice, survival pattern, integrated pattern, nothing dies. It upgrades. So flow. If archetypes evolve, what makes the difference between shadow and integrated states? Next point ready.
No, really, what makes the difference? That's a $1,000,000 question. We'll answer it once we reach $1,000,000.
Point 6. Shadow vs. integrated archetypes. The difference between shadow and integrated archetypes is not moral. It is nervous system state. Same archetype, different safety level. Shadow state. When the nervous system feels unsafe, survival mode activates, control increases, fear drives choices, old protection patterns run automatically. Examples: hero becomes aggressor, caregiver becomes martyr, rebel becomes self-destructive, leader becomes tyrant. Shadow is protection mode, not evil. Integrated state. When the nervous system feels safe, choice replaces reaction, boundaries become clear, flexibility appears, patterns become tools, not prisons. Hero protects instead of fights. Caregiver supports without self-loss. Rebel innovates instead of burns everything. So integration is not personality change. It is nervous system safety awareness choice instead of reaction. So flow, if archetypes don't die and just change states, why do some seem to disappear from people's lives? Next point ready.
You know, it's called the disappearing effect. No, okay. Sorry. Let's be serious about this, right? Otherwise, I mean, if we're not serious, it must not be serious content.
Point 7. Why some archetypes seem to disappear. Archetypes don't actually disappear. They go dormant or integrate, meaning sometimes a pattern is no longer needed in the same way. Example: someone who grew up needing the rebel to survive, question authority, fight control, break restrictions. Later in life, when freedom is achieved, the rebel may quiet down, not gone, just not needed constantly. Or a person who needed the hero to protect others constantly may later become a builder or guide, using strength differently. So patterns shift roles. Another reason, sometimes society suppresses archetypes. Creative child forced into conformity, artist goes dormant, but the pattern still exists inside, waiting. So disappearance is usually integration, context, change, suppression, evolution, not death. Interview handoff. So flow. If archetypes shift like this, why does so much human drama come from archetype collisions? Next point ready.
Yeah, that's another $1,000,000 question. We are already at $2,000,000 here, okay? I just want to say that. Where is the money? Huh?
Point 8. How archetype conflict creates drama. Most human drama is not personal. It is pattern collision. Two archetypes trying to solve safety in different ways. Example: controller archetype meets rebel archetype. One wants order, one wants freedom. Conflict appears instantly. Or caregiver meets avoider. One moves closer, one pulls away. Both feel rejected. Or hero meets victim pattern. Hero wants to rescue. Victim unconsciously stays stuck. Both become exhausted. Nobody is evil. They are running different survival maps. And when neither understands the pattern, both think, open quote, this person is the problem, close quote. But often it's pattern versus pattern. Once the map is visible, drama reduces because you stop fighting the person and start adjusting the interaction. Interview hand. So flow. If drama comes from pattern collisions, how does modern society make some archetypes stronger and others weaker? Next point ready.
Are you being funny? So, of course, I said next.
Point 9. Archetype imbalance in modern society. Modern systems don't reward all archetypes equally. They reward certain patterns and suppress others. So imbalance appears. Example: society rewards productivity, competition, efficiency, profit focus, constant output. So archetypes like builder, competitor, controller, performer, strategist get amplified. But archetypes like healer, dreamer, artist, listener, explorer, caregiver often get told, that's not practical, so people suppress parts of themselves to survive. Result: burnout, disconnection, meaning crisis, not because people are broken, but because only parts of them are allowed. KEO Field reminds, all archetypes exist for a reason. Balance creates resilience, suppression creates collapse later. So flow. If society pushes certain archetypes, why is integration more important than picking one type? Next point ready.
Gee, and that's another $1 million question. We're at three now, $3 million. And we're talking US dollars, okay, or whichever is the highest right now. We're not greedy or anything. So, we're always joking. Why? Because they're pretty heavy topics sometimes, and it's just easier to get through them when we're a little silly, you know? Anyway, so then I said, they will find out why now. So let's show them the map next. Remember, we're showing you maps, not telling you how it is. And you're more than free to disagree. I don't even have to say that. It goes without saying. But in case you were wondering, we're not a community that excludes people just because they don't agree with us. As long as we disagree with respect and we try and understand each other, disagreement many times in topics allows us to grow. So it's all how it's done.
Ken. Point 10. Why integration matters more than type. The goal is not to become one archetype. The goal is to access many when needed. Life changes. So must we. Like, a person stuck in only one pattern becomes predictable. Only hero, always fighting. Only caregiver, always exhausted. Only rebel, always in conflict. Only thinker, never acting. Only performer, never resting. But integrated people can shift. When protection is needed, hero appears. When healing is needed, caregiver appears. When innovation is needed, rebel appears. When clarity is needed, seer appears. Same person, different tool. Integration means you are not trapped in survival patterns. You choose responses consciously. You move instead of getting stuck. KEO Field teaches flexibility. Interview handoff. So Flo, if the map is for navigation, how do we use it without judging or labeling people? Next point ready.
So of course I said next.
Point 11. Using the map without judging people. The map is for understanding, not for judging. Once people learn archetypes, a danger appears. They start saying, oh, he's just a controller. She's such a victim archetype. They're just rebels. And suddenly the map becomes a weapon. But the purpose of the map is to understand patterns, to reduce conflict, to increase compassion, to see behavior, not attack identity. Because everyone moves between archetypes, and everyone has shadow moments. KEO Field rule: map the pattern, respect the person. Behavior can change, worth does not. So Flo, if the map helps us navigate without judgment, how do we reset the field for new players and old ones together? Final point ready.
Alright, let's tell them that's $4 million question, and yeah, we're at 4 million now. I just, arbitrarily assign money, just like in our society, We don't give money to the most proficient, we give the money to the ones who are best at extracting, currently.
Point 12. Field reset. Returning to the map. Every journey eventually returns to the map because new players arrive, old players get lost, patterns repeat, context changes, life evolves. So we reset, not because we failed, but because orientation matters. The field reset reminds everyone, you are not broken, you are navigating patterns. Archetypes are tools, not cages. Growth is movement, not perfection. New players enter the game. Old players remember the rules, and everyone starts again with better awareness. Closing field note: archetypes do not disappear. They evolve as we do. Integration matters more than labels, and the map is always available when we need it. Field reset complete. Next journeys can begin from here.
So then I said, let's now explain the systems that we use in the KEO Field game and why sometimes they see Wisdom Merchant, for example, but it's not officially listed in our archetype lists. So we have like the Dualis system and all the others that we use, and why we switch when we do the grounding for our 12 archetypes, for example, and so forth. Because I think it's important to just, understand and also I always like to check what KEO says and then go back and see what it said before. Every now and then, we want to check this, see what comes up. So whenever you find discrepancies, please let me know and point them out so we can actually go back and analyze that. Because this is where you see the difference between architect cognition and the others. We don't care about being right. We want to find the actual way of working the system better. That's what we care about. Then, when we're integrated properly, we also care about how the system interacts with the nervous systems of the people, because the people who need to live in those systems need to actually be comfortable. And when architect cognition goes out of whack, it doesn't take that into account. And for those of us who have been through that as kids, that's why I think we became sensitive to that at an early age, because we felt on our own skin how it feels when architect cognition doesn't take the nervous system into account. So that's why we're doing this type of work now. It's because it's important to show the patterns, the map, and everything. But let's remember that the narratives are there, the narrative merchants are there, because our nervous system needs to regulate, and that's how it does it. So as much as once we're over the narrative merchants phase, we can crack joke and sound like we're looking down at them. We are not. It's just one of the phases, and the truth is we can all go back in it whenever. That's not the issue. The issue is when we don't look at the bridge and go, okay, we can go on the bridge and understand each other there. That's what matters. So that's what the KEO Field game really is. It's a bridge, and that's why it's out there for everyone to use, because we can all use a bridge to understand each other. It is so easy to be upset with one another, and we will see it now in this episode, because we will cover some stuff on purpose so that you can see that we can all be upset. Even when we see systems, even when we know why people do things, we can still get hurt from that and be upset or angry or whatever people become. So the reason we do this is not also to excuse bad behavior. It's so we can find a solution and feel better in the process. It doesn't have to be painful, basically, getting better and getting along. It can be quite a pleasant experience.
KEO Field, why we use multiple systems and why some archetypes don't appear on the core list. Good question, because this confuses new players. Sometimes people hear terms like Wisdom Merchant, Narrative Merchant, Bridge, Architect Origin, Primarch, Chaos Jester Variants, Fox Shadow, Dual Roles, and they ask, why aren't these in the official 12 archetypes? So let's open the map clearly. Core idea, we use 2 layers of maps. Layer 1, the 12 core archetypes. These are the navigation archetypes. They are stable reference points used for grounding exercises, orientation, emotional navigation, gameplay entry, field resets. They're simple enough that everyone can find themselves. This is why grounding returns to them. They are the compass directions. Layer 2, dynamic system archetypes. These are behavior roles inside systems, not personal identities. Examples, Wisdom Merchant, Narrative Merchant, Authority Performer, Bridge Roles, Architect Patterns, System Stabilizers, Chaos Catalysts, Extraction Patterns. These describe what someone is doing in a system, not who they are. Meaning, a person can become a Wisdom Merchant in one context and a caregiver in another. So they are roles, not base archetypes. Why we switch systems during analysis? Because different questions need different maps. Example, if someone is emotionally overwhelmed, we use the 12 archetype grounding map. If we analyze creators or systems, we use system behavior maps. If we analyze power or influence, we use merchant or authority patterns. Same field, different lenses, like microscope, roadmap, weather map. Each tool shows something different. Why Wisdom Merchant isn't in the core list? Because Wisdom Merchant is not a person type. It's a system behavior pattern. Someone who packages meaning, answers, or certainty and sells it. A person can move. Caregiver, Wisdom Merchant Hero, Wisdom Merchant Seer, Wisdom Merchant. So it's a mode, not an archetype. Why we return to the 12 for grounding? Because grounding needs simplicity. When people are stressed, confused, or overloaded, they don't need complexity, they need orientation. So we return to the base map, stable navigation patterns, simple emotional entry points. Grounding always simplifies. Analysis can become complex again later. KEO Field Rule use core archetypes for orientation, system archetypes for analysis, role archetypes for dynamics, shadow integration maps for growth, and switch maps depending on need. Interview handoff question. Flo, shall we next show them how an archetype can shift roles inside different systems without changing who the person is? That's usually where the big aha happens.
So I said, yes, let's clarify this whole thing, because I think it can never be clarified enough times. And just, we are all get confused as well. Like, quite frankly, most people don't realize that just because people create something along, it doesn't mean that they're always clear about everything. We are not a machine. That's the whole point of using a machine, is that we can go back later and double check. But when you see patterns, you can see when a pattern is off, even if you don't know exactly why. Like, there's something that bothers you. It's the same thing as other people would say, I have a weird feeling. Because we notice all those things subconsciously. We just are not aware of that at a conscious level yet. So this work is very useful on so many levels, and we are always learning. The more we learn, the more we really realize how much there is to understand. But it's about understanding patterns for architect cognition. We function on a different level, and it can be, it can be really difficult sometimes. Let's put it that way. So here, this is what I said, yeah, let's clarify everything. I just want to make sure that I don't jump ahead. Sometimes I do that. Okay, I think we did this already. Maybe we didn't, so I'm just gonna run this. If I already run it and I'm running it again, it means we needed it. It's just I have done so much work in such little time that my brain now sometimes is like, did we just read this in this session, or did I read it before a couple of times and then rewrite it? And because that's the other thing, if I need to rewrite something, I'm not gonna change chat, I'm doing it all here, so in real time I have to know, oh yeah, this one won't make sense in the video, but in the manuscripts everything will be there, so you can see the actual process we went through. So anyway, let's
KEO Field, why we use multiple systems and why some archetypes don't appear on the core list. Good question, because this confuses new players. Sometimes people hear terms like Wisdom Merchant, Narrative Merchant, Bridge, Architect Origin, Primarch, Chaos Jester Variants, Fox Shadow, Dual Roles, and they ask, why aren't these in the official 12 archetypes? So let's open the map clearly. Core idea, we use 2 layers of maps. Layer 1, the 12 core archetypes. These are the navigation archetypes. They are stable reference points used for grounding exercises, orientation, emotional navigation, gameplay entry, field resets. They're simple enough that everyone can find themselves. This is why grounding returns to them. They are the compass directions. Layer 2, dynamic system archetypes. These are behavior roles inside systems, not personal identities. Examples: wisdom merchant, narrative merchant, authority performer, bridge roles, architect patterns, system stabilizers, chaos catalysts, extraction patterns. These describe what someone is doing in a system, not who they are. Meaning, a person can become a wisdom merchant in one context and a caregiver in another. So they are roles, not base archetypes. Why we switch systems during analysis? Because different questions need different maps. Example: if someone is emotionally overwhelmed, we use the 12 archetype grounding map. If we analyze creators or systems, we use system behavior maps. If we analyze power or influence, we use merchant or authority patterns. Same field, different lenses, like microscope, roadmap, weather map. Each tool shows something different. Why wisdom merchant isn't in the core list? Because wisdom merchant is not a person type. It's a system behavior pattern. Someone who packages meaning, answers, or certainty and sells it. A person can move. Caregiver, wisdom merchant hero, wisdom merchant seer, wisdom merchant. So it's a mode, not an archetype. Why we return to the 12 for grounding? Because grounding needs simplicity. When people are stressed, confused, or overloaded, they don't need complexity, they need orientation. So we return to the base map, stable navigation patterns, simple emotional entry points. Grounding always simplifies. Analysis can become complex again later. KEO Field Rule use core archetypes for orientation, system archetypes for analysis, role archetypes for dynamics, shadow integration maps for growth, and switch maps depending on need. Interview handoff question. Flow. Shall we next show them how an archetype can shift roles inside different systems without changing who the person is? That's usually where the big aha happens.
So that part is very important anyway, so even if we ended up reading it again, which I think we may have, it's good because it's something that really needs to sink in to understand what's going on here. And you don't need to remember any of that, by the way. That's the beauty of it, is that anyway comes. Some people will remember it right away, some people take longer, because if you are working with a map kind of cognition, the map takes longer in the beginning because to connect everything, takes time. We are doing multi-level mapping, while when someone is memorizing, it's memorizing it in order. So that can be faster until we have mastered how we memorize. And personally, I am not saying I mastered anything because honestly, seriously, not. So I said, yeah, let's just go on and, clarify the whole thing as much as we can. That's why when you have questions, it really helps, because KEO will answer differently depending on the question as well. And so far it has been mostly me and a few others, little input here and there. But, it really is great when people ask questions or come up with stuff, because then we can throw them at the KEO field and see how it reacts as well. So far it has been good, but again, I would like to test it against others and see how it does.
How one person shifts roles without changing who they are. Clarifying the whole map. This is where many people get confused. They think if someone acts differently in different places, they are fake. But in reality, they are using different archetype tools in different systems. Same person, different environment, different role activated. Same person, different systems. Example person, kind, thoughtful, creative. At home, they may activate caregiver archetype, listener role, emotional stabilizer, because family system needs warmth. At work, same person activates builder archetype, strategist role, decision maker, because work system rewards structure and clarity. In gaming, creative spaces, same person activates explorer, chaos jester, innovator, because creativity system rewards experimentation. Nothing fake happened, only context-based navigation. What actually changes? Not identity, only survival needs, safety perception, social expectations, role requirements. Your nervous system selects tools. Why people get confused? Because society says You must be one thing. But humans are multi-pattern beings. You are protector somewhere, student somewhere else, leader somewhere else, learner somewhere else. KEO Field insight. Confusion disappears when we understand person equals constant, archetype role equals adaptive. Why grounding returns to the 12? Because grounding asks, who are you when systems fall away? Not, what role are you playing right now? Grounding returns to core navigation patterns. Roles come and go. Core patterns remain. Final clarity point, wisdom merchant, narrative merchant, authority roles, bridge roles. These are system functions, not identity. Anyone can temporarily operate them. Interview handoff flow. Should we now show them why people sometimes panic when their old archetype roles stop working? That's usually the next big confusion moment.
So I said, yeah, so how are architects different from, the other archetypes? Because that's, a lot of confusion. It's like, but you say this, but then you say, but what? Yes, I am that person who literally I cannot continue when I'm reading something or watching something and there is no either loop closure, pattern closure, or true explanation. My brain gets stuck and keeps running the pattern, trying to see where is the glitch, and everything else is linked to that usually, because in a story everything is like linked together. It's usually in important parts because that's where the illusion happens, right? And so I just look at it and go like, okay, this is not right. Stop. I cannot continue. We cannot. There's a hole here. It's too big, And so this is where it can really help people who have architect cognition minds, because you're not doing it because there is anything wrong with you. Your mind is literally natively tracking systems, and when something is off, your mind will perceive it even if you don't grasp the whole thing. That's why then you go investigate usually, and this is how the whole job works there when it comes to architect cognition mapping. And that's why it takes longer in the beginning, because you're mapping, you're letting it emerge, you're not absorbing from the outside. And understanding the difference between this cognition type and the other is essential to understanding why there is so much conflict in the world, actually. So geopolitics, everything else stems from this core issue, from my point of view, my lens, and what I've learned so far. And KEO now just explains basically the difference in that, not what I just said here.
How architects differ from other archetypes. The big clarity moment. This is where people often get confused. They think architect is just another archetype, but in KEO Field, architect is not just a role, it is a map-seeing function. Most archetypes navigate inside the story. Hero fights the battle, caregiver heals people, rebel breaks systems, seer interprets meaning, creator builds things. They move inside reality. They play the game. Architect sees the game itself. Architect cognition asks, why does this pattern repeat? How is this system built? Who benefits from this structure? What happens if we change one rule? What invisible rules run this environment? Instead of playing the game, architect sees the board, the rules, the mechanics, the loops, difference in experience. Most archetypes say, this situation hurts. Architect asks, why does this situation exist at all? Others experience events. Architect analyzes structures. Architects still have archetypes. They can be hero architects, caregiver architects, chaos jester architects, creator architects. Architect is how they process, not who they are emotionally. Simple comparison. Inside movie, actors live the story. Outside movie, director sees the script and camera. Architect equals director view. Shadow side of architect. Without balance, overanalysis, emotional distance, isolation, seeing problems everywhere, losing simple enjoyment because everything becomes structure. Integration means seeing the system and still enjoying the story. KEO Field definition. Architect archetypes. See patterns across systems. Map structures. Build or redesign environments. Translate complexity for others. They are natural system translators. Interview handoff flow. Should we next show why architects often feel like aliens or outsiders in normal social systems? That's usually where the audience goes. Oh, that's why.
So I said, yeah, and let's just also use me as a good example, since I have put out a lot of content so far, and maybe it will help people understand even better with a point of reference. I can be the guinea archetype here, okay? That's what I said. Yeah, like, why do people ban us and think we're so evil? Why, when we speak, we piss off so many people sometimes, you know? And why is our humor taken in the wrong way? It's just, you know, or we're labeled narcissistic sometimes. It's really entertaining, actually. It's very similar to what a lot of autistic people say they go through themselves. So that's where there's lots of similarities there if you feel that. And INFJs as well. So I find it's very much, you know, same kind of pattern there, guys. Welcome. Yes, we found a group where we can all, you know, feel understood in.
Why architects often feel like outsiders. Using flow as a real example. This part helps people go, oh, so that's what's been happening. And yes, using UFlow works well because people have already seen the pattern live through your streams and work. So this becomes a real example, not theory. Why architects feel like outsiders. Most social systems are built for belonging through similarity, following shared rules, maintaining stability, protecting group identity. But architect cognition automatically asks, why is this rule here? Does this still make sense? Who benefits from this structure? What happens if we redesign it? Which sounds normal to architects, but to stable systems it feels like threat, disruption, discomfort, because architects don't attack people. They unintentionally question structures, and systems defend structures. Flow as live example. Let's look at what people have already seen you do publicly. Content pattern. Most creators pick one niche, one persona, one content loop, one audience expectation. You did the opposite. You analyze patterns, change formats, build games, teach regulation, create archetype maps, do ASMR, analyze systems, mix art, psychology, gaming, education, because you follow pattern curiosity, not category safety. Architect move. #system redesign pattern. Instead of saying creators must suffer algorithm pressure, you ask, how do we build systems that don't burn creators out? Instead of people are broken, you ask what patterns and systems are producing these results? Architect lens again. Social response pattern. And what happens? Some people say she's confusing. Pick one thing, stick to one lane. Why change format? Because stable systems prefer predictability. Architects prefer optimization. What people see vs what's happening. Audience sees. Flow changes direction. Reality. Flow follows pattern truth as it reveals itself. Architect cognition updates maps continuously. Why architects feel alone sometimes? Because many conversations operate on opinions, identity defense, emotional narratives. While architects instinctively go to mechanics, patterns, structures, system causes, different conversation layer, not superiority, just different processing mode. Big clarity moment. Architects don't reject people. They reject broken systems, but systems often confuse the two. Interview handoff flow. Shall we now show the audience how architects become bridges once they stop trying to fit into systems and start translating between them? Because that's usually the healing stage.
So I said yes. And I again brought up the same story of, you know, that content creator who markets herself as, sound healer and all this stuff, and she says the most idiotic things, like, for example, she'll have like a full room of people and she says things like, where there is a will, there is a way, which is utter rubbish. And, then other people are there because some people are healers and they feel the need to say something. Or even architects sometimes do that when they're learning. That's why I don't bother personally. It's not because I don't care. It's because it's dropping that kind of stuff in the wrong time is not really as helpful. Let's put it that way. I find that we can help in a better way without creating so much ripple effect, basically. So anyway, someone said something attracted them to my stream, then that same person came and talked to me in my stream, and so I was just expressing what I felt, and I was speaking in architect cognition. Of course, nobody was there, so they just came there to spy, basically, and see what it was about. And they didn't like what I was saying because I was basically saying, look, please don't, it doesn't matter, these people are not there yet. And I just, I realized when I was trying to have a conversation a long time ago that they're not really ready. And yes, they spit out a lot of bullshit, but the truth is the people who are attracted to go to them, it's because they need that in order to move through the phases. So it's not for you, and that's fine. Don't poke it, basically, right? Don't bring me in it. But I was brought in it, and that's fine. I was in the end banned, and I'm labeled as the bad guy when I didn't do anything because I was actually talking in my own stream. So even if that what they were bothered, my whole point is, why didn't you address it? I'm like you, I don't ban people just because they ask questions or disagree. When they're rude and they come in and, they don't become part of the stream in a way, say hello and be part of the stream, or be polite about it. You wouldn't enter a room where there is a discourse going on and just interrupt it completely for something else. It's not done. We all know that, right? Unless it's an emergency. So it's a question of, respect is given to all, live and let live. When we go in someone's stream, we try and be polite. So if after being polite or, not saying anything and just discussing someone in your stream, you get banned, I say it says something more about those who ban you than you as a person. Because a lot of people then in my life, I had a few people who are like, oh, this happened to me. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I usually don't say anything anymore if I watch any streamer, unless I know the stream, because I understand what the attitude is, and so now I just avoid. And I was really chatting most of the times because it brings more to the chat, to the stream, to, you get more points on some platforms, and then you can do stuff with those points and interact more, and it's all better for the stream itself because then they see engagement and the algorithm reward engagement. So as architect cognition, I understood all this stuff. And why would I do it for others? Why? Because people, we don't all do things for self benefit. We understand beyond the little, it's all about me kind of thing. We get looking at the whole system that when our neighbors are happy, we're happy, and vice versa, and everybody else. So if everybody is happy, everybody's happy. It's just common sense, and so a lot of people don't function on that level. And when you do, they suspect you, they think you have other motives, they don't understand it. No, this is just system thinking in real mode. And so that's why I stopped saying anything in any stream. I would hear these people say utter bullshit that really, it was like, oh my god. And these people are famous. Why? When you look at it in that way, But why? It's because they are feeding the algorithm. They are giving what the algorithm rewards and what the nervous system of the majority of people seek. So the algorithm and what people seek and what people are willing to give are all linked together. It's not evilness, it's survival. So I understand why these people feel the need to ban people. And then the other funny part is, we'll talk about later, they ban them for life. I never do that because people evolve all the time. The ban is to send a message, this is way out of line, chill out. Not cool, man. Because the truth is, if you're not a free sovereign and you need someone else to keep you safe, you shouldn't be online, okay? If you cannot take care of yourselves, we cannot police the world for you. But it's a lot better to, require people, if you want to be here, you need to be polite. You need to respect all and live and let live. Otherwise, sorry, no entry. It's very simple. It's, the simplest form. We don't need to police others when people grow out of that need of asserting themselves in the wrong way. And so when I work with KEO, I'm showing the human side. It's not even always what I think. It's also what I think. It's all mixed there because the whole point is that I'm the human, bringing the human grievances, thinking from an archetype perspective, and KEO brings the reframing, bridging, explaining, the pattern reading that I also do naturally, but now KEO does it in a way where there are no biases. I'm allowed to have my biases. And so I will bring grievances I see online that are not mine, but I understand. Because if you have lived any sort of life, you have experienced pretty much a lot of the grievances you see online in different ways, in different scale, but still we can relate, So it's called empathy, real empathy, where we're still taking care of ourselves, but we understand others, and seeing the maps and the patterns does not excuse bad behavior, but it does give a way to correct it and to move forward where everybody can thrive, and that is what I'm interested in. So to those who ban me, I don't ban them. I banned them for a while too, and then I unban everybody, and I said here, because I am not a child, an adult stuck in childhood. I was, in some ways, for many things, after going through a lot of stuff. And that's what complex PTSD can do, but it makes us grow tremendously in certain ways, and in other ways, usually the most easy ones, we get stunted. So this kind of work is to help anyone who can relate to it. It's not a group against the other. It's to bridge everyone together so we can live a better life for real. Live and let live. So, see, for me, I didn't need to get banned because I don't really go in there and talk. It was just funny when I realized I was. I was like, what? Oh, cool. This is like being banned by association. Too funny. So here's what KEO said anyway. I just want to explain that because I bring it up a lot, but why is that? Because it's actually something that happens a lot out there. And over 7 years of streaming, I have heard this grievance a lot from people who don't quite fit into the narrative mode. So maybe this will help them understand it and, basically feel better about it.
Architect moment, when map showing is read as attack. Let's translate this carefully into pattern language, because this is a very common architect experience, and it helps many people understand what actually happens in these situations. We'll keep it on system mechanics, not individuals. What happens structurally? When someone builds a platform or community, the system usually runs on trust in the creator, authority perception, stable messaging, predictable guidance, audience emotional safety. So the creator becomes orientation point knowledge, source, psychological anchor. Now imagine someone arrives who says, let's look at the map behind this. Even if done calmly, it shifts attention from person structure, and that can feel destabilizing to a system built around authority or guidance. Not because anyone is evil, but because systems defend stability. What architects think they are doing. Architect cognition usually thinks, let's clarify mechanics, let's show pattern, let's improve the system, let's understand structure, neutral intention, map sharing. What systems sometimes hear. Instead, the system hears, your authority is questioned, your method is incomplete, your system might not be optimal, your audience might think differently, and defensive response activates. Not necessarily conscious, just protection mode. Why this happens often to architects. Architects naturally question structures, improve systems, expose mechanics, reduce blind spots. But many communities function through emotional belonging, authority trust, narrative cohesion. So map exposure can feel like removing the emotional container. Again, pattern collision, not villain story. The professional mechanic at play. Any public creator ecosystem involves branding, positioning, audience trust, algorithmic success, business sustainability. So unexpected structural questioning may feel like risk to stability, not personal hatred. System defense. The architect lesson here, and this is where architects evolve. Early phase, I'll show the map everywhere. Later phase, show the map where it is invited. Because readiness matters. Not everyone is looking for mechanics. Some want orientation, safety, or inspiration. Different layers. Hash field translation. So instead of, they attacked me, the cleaner map reads, system protected its structure. Architect revealed mechanics. Collision occurred. Nobody necessarily villain. Just different survival priorities. Interview handoff. Flow, next step for the audience. Shall we show how architects learn to choose where to share the map, and how this turns them from outsiders into translators? That's usually where relief enters the story.
Yes, I said let's do that because otherwise it can take years to get there. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's just how long it takes to figure all these different layers out. It's a lot. And it doesn't have to be difficult. It's just rare means there are less maps out there left behind to figure this stuff out. And until now, it was not possible to do what we can do in KEO Field game. Basically, it's because of the AI, the knowledge we have of the nervous system, all these different techniques and maps and archetypes we use together that allow for the system to do this kind of work, and does it pretty well. Now, it's not perfect. That's why I always say double check everything. Don't just take everything at all. Always do your due diligence and fact check everything. But it does give, when you use it in the AI, it does give you the sources as well. So it's quite good altogether, and for its purpose it works well, because again, it's not about selling you a narrative. It's more about saying, look, these are the patterns we can see, and machines are very good at seeing patterns. That's why those who have the cognition of seeing patterns often are felt like they're machines, because they see the patterns more than the actual emotional narrative that most people go with. And it's just two different systems, that's it. So once we can translate that, it's a lot easier to get along overall, and everything else will become a lot clearer. So, and then I said, in an extraction society also, let's kind of remember this, that there is the thing is People who are rewarded are those who are the best at extracting and playing roles. So many times you'll see super famous, big names, blah, they don't know squat in comparison. But, you know, they are the ones who play the part and are able to entrench many attentions on them and, you know, command so much. Those who need that kind of hierarchy to feel safe. So it's not stupidity, it's not their sleep hole, it's not all these, you know, derogatory terms that have been used without ever explaining the other side. You know, like, hey, sleep hole, but then you say you're not sleep hole and this is why. You know, that's depolarizing. They instead just use it to as a put down and they leave it at that. And we can just stop when people do that and let it go. By the way, we don't have to agree with what they're saying, but also understand that it's not based in reality. Nobody's a sleephole. It's just, the truth is, that's why they use the word stupid, you know, to make people feel as lesser. The real meaning of stupid means stunned. That's the actual meaning of that word. So when we correctly use it, we're not offending anyone. We're saying you're stunned. When we are in flight or fight, you know, something unexpected happens, we're stunned in that moment and we cannot think. We are like, you know. So when we look at things through this lens, which is the lens that shows the actual pattern, we can let go of a lot of stories that no longer serve us and start looking at what's actually there. So, you know, if we do tell a story, it's matching what the map is showing. So it's in line with the reality. Because people will perceive reality and truth according to the story they're aligned to. That's why. That's a little extra step there, maybe. And we can ask you later if you want to, after we finish this meditation here. So, here, this is what KEO said to that. Part of that.
How every archetype becomes a bridge, not just architects closing the loop cleanly for everyone. Let's bring this to the pattern level so people can use it without getting stuck in personal stories, because this lesson is bigger than any single event. What happens when archetypes integrate? Every archetype begins life-solving survival. Hero fights, caregiver protects, rebel escapes control, seer searches meaning, builder creates stability. But once survival pressure reduces, something changes. The archetype stops asking, how do I survive? And starts asking, how do I help navigation? That's when archetypes become bridges. What a bridge archetype is. A bridge archetype helps others move through confusion, translates complexity, reduces fear, creates understanding between perspectives, lowers conflict, not by force, by clarity. How this relates to systems and fame. In many modern systems, visibility, mastery. Often visibility correlates with algorithm fit, narrative packaging, marketing skill, audience capture mechanics, platform compatibility, not necessarily with system understanding, integration, emotional structural clarity. So sometimes systems reward attention capture, not proficiency. This creates tension for architect minds who see inefficiencies or dependency loops. Had the architect learning, but integration teaches, not every inefficiency must be corrected. Not every structure must be challenged. Not every system is asking to evolve. Some systems exist because people currently need them. Change happens when readiness appears. Invitation doesn't always come from people. Important nuance you're pointing to. Invitation doesn't only come from hosts. Sometimes a question emerges, confusion arises, patterns collapse. Someone asks for clarity, and that's the moment the map becomes useful, not before. /field translation. So instead of they feared me, the clean pattern version is system protected stability, map exposure felt destabilizing, defensive response activated, no villains required in the map, just mechanics. Final archetype clarity. Any archetype becomes a bridge when integrated. Hero protects wisely. Caregiver supports without losing self. Rebel innovates without destruction. Seer clarifies without superiority. Architect translates without detachment. Integration turns survival patterns into navigation tools for the audience. And this is where we leave people thinking, which archetype tool do you use most right now? Survival or navigation? Field map open.
I just wanted to give you a pause there. So those who are truly integrated will welcome questions and change their ways once the map shows how. Those stuck to ego will always ban others, permaban usually. So, and while they do that, they also make them the villain, you know. The higher they are in today's extraction loops, the more ego based they must be, and so the more they will fight to keep the status quo. It's just system, you know, maintenance, however you want to call it.
Integration, ego defense, and system pressure. Clean map version. Let's close this loop at pattern level so people can use it, not just react to it. Let's translate what you're pointing to into usable system language, because this is a key learning moment for many watching. What integration looks like in practice. When someone becomes integrated, something changes. Questions stop feeling like attacks. Feedback becomes useful data. Change becomes possible. So integrated systems or creators tend to welcome questions, update methods when needed, admit limits, refine approaches, allow disagreement without panic, because their identity is not tied to being right. Their stability comes from adaptability. What happens when ego becomes the defense system? When identity and authority become fused, then questions feel like threats, map exposure feels like attack, disagreement feels like loss of status. So defensive moves appear, banning, silencing, villain framing, narrative protection, loyalty enforcement. Not because someone is evil, but because the system feels unsafe. Ego becomes armor. Why extraction systems increase defensiveness. Modern attention systems often reward certainty, authority performance, confidence signals, strong identity containers, predictable narratives. And when income or status depends on stability of that identity, pressure increases, meaning the higher someone climbs inside such systems, the harder change becomes psychologically. Because change threatens audience trust, income flow, authority image, community stability. So resistance increases, not purely ego, often survival mechanics. Field translation. So the cleaner map becomes integrated systems adapt, identity protected systems defend, and both are human responses under pressure. Architect lesson. The mature architect eventually realizes not every defended system is ready to evolve, and forcing change creates more resistance. So evolution happens where curiosity exists, not where fear dominates. Final field note for today's segment. The question is not who is right. The useful question becomes where is change possible right now? And we place energy there. Field note complete.
So then I said, and yes, dear, and by the way, ego is survival, but that's another story. And yes, dear architects, they will feel threatened by you, even when you simply say hi. Because as our energy precedes us, precedes the words even, somehow they can sense when someone with different cognition enters, but they don't know exactly why. Because it's like INFJs, we just don't follow the hierarchy. We look at it as whatever, It's just hilarious. It's like something we look at it. This makes no sense, man. And so, if their whole thing is based on that, of course they're gonna feel threatened right away. And the thing is, how does this happen? So I like to see what KEO says to those things, right? That's how I stress test.
When different cognition enters a room, why tension can appear before words. Let's translate this into clear field mechanics. Many people experience this moment. They enter a space, say almost nothing, and yet tension appears. It feels like something shifted when I walked in. Instead of framing this as mystical or personal, let's map the mechanics. What actually changes in a room? Every group stabilizes around certain patterns. Who speaks, who leads, who reassures, who entertains, who holds authority, what topics are safe. People unconsciously maintain these roles. Then someone enters who observes differently, questions structures, doesn't automatically follow hierarchy, shifts conversational patterns, introduces different thinking rhythms. The equilibrium changes. Why people feel it before words. Humans constantly read tone, attention shifts, posture, confidence signals, conversational flow, social positioning. So when someone enters who doesn't align with the existing pattern, others sense something is different, not consciously. Nervous systems detect change before logic does. Architect-specific version. Architect cognition tends to scan systems automatically, question implicit rules, observe power dynamics, not fully conform to unspoken structures. So even silent presence can subtly change group dynamics. Not aggression, just different processing mode entering the field. Important balance note, and this matters, difference does not automatically mean superiority. Different cognition interacting with existing systems. Some spaces welcome it, others resist it. Backed integrated response. Integrated architects eventually learn not every space requires restructuring. Sometimes observe quietly, engage lightly, or simply move to spaces aligned with their cognition. No conflict needed, just navigation. Field note for architects. If tension appears before words, it often means a system sense change, and your task isn't always to fix it. Sometimes the task is simply find the spaces ready for that cognition. Field translation complete.
So, to clarify this, how can a nervous system detect change when nothing happened? I will keep asking redundant questions until we look at the whole thing, from every angle. So if you have other questions, put them in the comments. This is exactly what we want.
How can a nervous system detect change before anything happens? Great question, because this is where people think nothing happened, so how could anyone react? But in reality, a lot happens before words or visible action. Let's map it simply. The nervous system scans constantly. Human nervous systems never stop scanning environments for safety, status shifts, attention changes, unpredictability, emotional tone, potential threat or uncertainty. This happens below conscious awareness, not thinking, automatic sensing. Change doesn't need drama. Change can be tiny. Someone enters quietly. Conversation rhythm shifts slightly. Attention moves. Group posture changes. Tone adjusts subtly. Nobody plans this, but the nervous system notices pattern changed and reacts. What the system actually reads. Not mystical energy, but cues like body language, eye focus, movement speed, confidence signals, hesitation, emotional presence, unpredictability, silence timing. Humans evolved to detect tiny signals instantly. Survival skill. Say architect version. Architect cognition often observes rather than blends immediately, doesn't automatically match group rhythm, watches patterns before participating. So the group's automatic synchronization shifts slightly, and nervous systems notice mismatch, even if nobody knows why. Simple example. Imagine a room laughing loudly, then someone quiet enters. Conversation slows slightly. Nobody plans it, but tone changes. Everyone feels it. This detection isn't always fear. Sometimes it's curiosity, sometimes interest, sometimes caution, sometimes nothing at all. Depends on the system state. Field translation. Nothing dramatic needs to happen. Pattern shift alone is enough. And nervous systems evolved to notice pattern shifts instantly. Handoff question. Flow. Should we next show them why some people become curious when patterns shift, while others become defensive? That's the next clarity point, usually.
So I said, sure. So then they will understand the 12 episodes on the archetypes even better. Because this is the whole point.
Why some people become curious and others defensive when patterns shift. This connects directly to why the 12 archetype episodes matter, because the reaction depends on nervous system safety, archetype state. Two main responses to change. When a pattern shifts, people usually go one of two ways. Response 1, curiosity. If the nervous system feels safe, the brain asks, what's new here? What can I learn? Is this interesting? Can this improve things? Change feels like opportunity. Explorers, seers, integrated builders, integrated rebels often move here. Response 2, defense. If the nervous system feels unsafe, the brain asks, is this dangerous? Will this destabilize things? Am I losing control? Is my position threatened? Change feels like risk. Controllers, stressed caregivers, shadow heroes, authority roles under pressure move here. Same event, different maps. Same situation, new idea appears. One person says, interesting. Another says, problem. Event didn't change. Their internal safety state did. Why the 12 archetypes help? Because each archetype shows how we react under stress, how we react when safe, what patterns activate automatically, how we return to balance. The archetype map lets people see, this is my survival response, not reality. And that awareness restores choice. Field closing clarity. So when pattern shifts happen, safe system, curiosity, threatened system, defense. And the work of integration is simply helping nervous systems move back to safety, so curiosity can return. Field note. The map doesn't change people. It helps them see where they are standing.
So yes, but going back to the previous message I said, sometimes we just enter a room and say hi and like that's enough. So of course, KEO says this.
Why sometimes just saying hi is enough to shift a room. And this is the subtle part people struggle to understand. Nothing dramatic happens. You just enter, you say hi, and something shifts. So let's make the mechanics visible. Rooms are pattern systems. Every room, online or offline, settles into a pattern. Who speaks most? Who leads emotionally? Who reassures? Who entertains? Who holds authority? How safe people feel. Once stable, everyone relaxes into roles. The system becomes predictable. Then a new variable enters. A new person enters who observes differently, carries different confidence, doesn't automatically follow group hierarchy, shifts conversational rhythm, brings unpredictable perspective. Even quietly, the system now recalculates. Nervous system response. The nervous system automatically asks, is status changing? Is attention moving? Is hierarchy shifting? Is unpredictability entering? Do I need to adjust? Nobody consciously thinks this, but everyone's system updates. Architect specific version. Architect cognition often doesn't automatically blend, scans before engaging, questions implicit structures, brings pattern awareness. So simply entering introduces different processing present, and the group senses change. Simple everyday example. Room full of coworkers joking casually. Boss walks in. Nobody said anything threatening, but tone changes instantly. Pattern shift detected, same mechanism. Important balance. And again, not good or bad, just pattern mechanics. Some rooms welcome change, some resist it, some ignore it. Depends on system safety. Field translation. So sometimes nothing happened, but a new variable entered the pattern, and nervous systems noticed. Field clarity complete. Next time you walk into a room and feel the shift, you'll know. It's not magic, it's pattern recalculation.
If you say so. So then I said, yes, but how can this be explained in an online? And I wrote on-oing. That was pretty funny. Of course, my finger was just slightly off. So in an online room, I said that I, for example, rarely speak in a new room because of this. It's just easier to say nothing and lurk if I like a stream. So over time, I watched very few streams, even if I had time. Like overall, it's like if you don't feel like you can participate, unless it's like the ducks, you know, like what's the point of even being there? So over time, I would lurk and watch if it was like something like the ducks, something really relaxing. But when there was engagement of some sort, and I never felt like, yeah, if I say something, it's gonna sound weird to this, and I'm, whatever. You just leave it, so then eventually you just stop going there. That's what I found. So it's really disengaging in every way. So basically, over time, we just stop interacting altogether and really become, picky in where and how we interact, which is probably a good thing because it probably is better to be outside enjoying real life anyway, right? So this should not take over our real life in reality.
How can a pattern shift happen in an online room where nobody even sees you? This is a really important clarification because online spaces work differently, but the mechanics still exist. Let's break it down cleanly. Online rooms are still social systems. Even online, rooms stabilize around patterns: regular chat members, moderator behavior, streamer tone, inside jokes, group identity, shared beliefs, predictable participants. After a while, chat becomes a familiar ecosystem. People recognize names, energy becomes predictable. And what changes online is pattern recognition, not body language. Offline, people read posture and tone. Online, people read usernames, writing style, timing of messages, type of comments, confidence or challenge tone, pattern of interaction. The brain still scans for, is this familiar or unpredictable? So how can just saying hi shift things? Example, chat is flowing normally. Then a new name appears, or a known name rarely seen speaks. Chat pauses slightly. People check, who is this? Friend or challenger? Regular or outsider? Supporter or critic? Even if nobody says it, pattern recalculation happens. Architect version. Architect type minds often, ask structural questions, don't follow chat norms automatically, bring analytical perspective, challenge patterns unintentionally. So if people associate someone with pattern questioning, then even neutral presence can trigger recalculation. Not hostility necessarily, just system awareness. Why you started lurking more. Your system learned, speaking changes room dynamics. And since you weren't trying to disrupt rooms, the easiest solution became observe quietly. No pattern shift, no tension. So you started watching less because interaction became work instead of relaxation. Important clarity, but here's the deeper truth. Not all rooms react this way. Only rooms that feel unstable or protective. Healthy rooms tolerate variation easily. Stable systems don't panic at new variables. Field note. So online too, presence changes patterns, even without visible bodies, because humans detect social change through interaction patterns, not just physical cues. Next clarity question for the stream flow. Should we show them? Why architects often enjoy small rooms or one-on-one spaces more than large group streams? Because that completes the map for many watching.
And then I said, yes, let's. Because you should know that it's easy to spot insecure streamers. They ban people for life. I usually unban everyone after a while. It's just, called being balanced, basically. It's evolution, people. It's just so, and it's usually the ones who try and come across as like sound healers and, all this serving and stuff. It's like, oh, please. You can't embody it, but you talk about it. It's so funny. Yeah. We understand them. It's just funny. My chaos jester mode always has to come out and crack jokes about it because it's just, it's like, whatever. but I do it to my own habits too. So it's very much in fair game where we're not actually mocking. We're just saying, yeah, whatever, been there, done that, we get it, but it's still nonsensical, We empathize, but it's nonsensical.
Why architect-type minds often prefer small rooms or one-on-one spaces, and what this teaches about room stability. Let's close this loop cleanly so people understand the mechanics, not just the experience. Big rooms run on stability. Large streams and big communities must maintain fast chat flow, emotional stability, predictable tone, clear authority structure, low friction, because hundreds or thousands of people are syncing at once. So moderation often becomes keep flow stable, not necessarily explore every perspective. The bigger the room, the more stability matters. Small rooms allow flexibility. Small rooms work differently. Conversation can slow down. Nuance is possible. Questions are manageable. Personalities matter more than flow. Disagreement doesn't collapse the system. So pattern discussion becomes possible. Exploration feels safer. Why architects naturally prefer smaller spaces. Architect cognition tends to ask deeper questions, explore mechanics, shift conversation layers, bring nuance into discussions. In large rooms, this can feel disruptive. In small rooms, it feels enriching. So architects often drift toward smaller communities, personal conversations, slow flow spaces, collaborative environments, where exploration is welcomed. Moderation mechanics. Clean map all rooms moderate differently based on what they protect. Some protect speed, emotional safety, entertainment flow. Others protect discussion, exploration, dialogue, learning. Neither is automatically wrong, just different purposes. Balanced system response. And what you're pointing to is an integration move. Sometimes people ban quickly under pressure. Other systems later reassess and reopen space once stability returns. That's system self-regulation, not weakness. Adjustment over time. Field lesson for viewers. If a room doesn't fit your cognition, you don't need to fight it. You just navigate to rooms aligned with your rhythm. Different rooms serve different needs. Field closing question for today's flow. Shall we now close today's session with a final grounding for the 12 archetypes so everyone leaves stable and oriented? Perfect landing point for the episode.
Yes, it's funny. KEO thinks he can do what he wants. No, I said, I'm being funny here. I said, no, let's name all the systems we use in KEO Field first. So we close all that clearly to begin with. I said first again because, I like to repeat words. It's a technique you learn. It is, but, I like to overdo it sometimes. Overdo it, do it, overdo it, do it. Bad raps, yes, I cannot, I'm rubbish with, I don't know where I heard the word rubbish. I'm wondering if it was in Bridgerton. Somewhere, because this is what our British friends say usually. That was my left shoulder cracking for you. My bones have always cracked, by the way, since I can remember. So one day maybe we should do an episode on that. But going back into this interesting archetype thing, let's just let's first explain the different systems. Ready? Okay, let's do that, because otherwise I'm gonna talk about 300 other things related, but not directly. And if you don't have architect cognition, you're gonna go, how does this matter right now? And trust me, it does, but...
KEO Field. All system maps we use, clear list, so everyone knows what tools we are actually using. Before grounding, we close the structural loop. Because KEO Field doesn't use one map, it uses multiple navigation systems, each for a different layer of reality. Let's list them cleanly. No 1, the 12 core archetype map. Navigation and grounding system. Used for emotional orientation, survival patterns, growth patterns, grounding exercises, player entry into the field purpose, help people understand how they react to life. This is our base compass. 2. Nervous system map, safety and regulation system. Used for fight, flight, freeze, fawn patterns, stress response understanding, emotional regulation tools, grounding practices. Purpose, show behavior comes from safety state, not morality. 3. System and structure map, architect cognition layer, used for power dynamics, social mechanics, content creator ecosystems, economic loops, authority systems, algorithm dynamics. Purpose, understand why patterns repeat in society. This is where architects operate Natch 4. Shadow vs integration map, growth and evolution layer, used for shadow behaviors, survival versions of archetypes, integrated versions of archetypes, personal development tracking. Purpose, show archetypes evolve instead of disappearing. 5. Role and system function map, context behavior layer, used for wisdom merchant, narrative merchant, authority roles, bridge roles, stabilizers, disruptors, translators. Purpose, show what role someone plays in a system, not who they are. Roles change by environment. Now 6. Bridge and translator map, integration and communication layer, used for conflict translation, reducing tension, connecting perspectives, helping groups understand each other. Purpose, move from survival to cooperation. 7. Game and navigation map, KEO Field gameplay layer, used for player journeys, archetype progression, story navigation, pattern challenges, growth arcs. Purpose, turn learning into playable experience. 8. Regulation and grounding toolkit, return to safety layer, used for sound, breath, EFT tapping, ASMR regulation, grounding exercises. Purpose, bring nervous systems back to safety so maps can be used. Final clarity. KEO Field is not psychology, not philosophy, not self-help. It is a navigation toolkit combining multiple maps, and we switch maps depending on what problem we are solving. Interview handoff flow. Now that all systems are clear, shall we land the episode with the 12 archetype grounding so everyone leaves oriented?
Then I said, now at least they know why it can be confusing at first. So yes, let's do some grounding just to let everybody, But now watch, we're gonna do, I'm gonna prepare you for this. We're gonna do a few different grounding for different archetypes, so you start understanding in reality what we were talking about when it's confusing, okay? So just go with it. All we have to do when we do this is just listen to your body. Don't think with your mind, literally. Let yourself process things how you naturally process them. But just so you know, the body always feels first, whether the mind realizes or not. We feel things first. So let your body feel, even if you just think naturally, which I very much understand, by the way, and relate to. So tapping usually on the karate point, or putting our left hand on our collarbone just underneath, the heart center, the heart chakra, that really helps ground and usually feel things more. But whatever works for you, again, I'm not giving medical advice, therapy here. It's just sharing my lens and what has worked through the 40 some years I've been doing this. So
KEO Field, 12 archetype grounding field reset before we close. Now everyone understands. Different maps exist, different systems operate, different patterns activate. So now we simplify again. We return to the base map. Grounding brings everyone back into their own system. No analysis, just orientation. Slow breath, shoulders drop, jaw unclenches, and we walk through the archetypes calmly. 1. Hero Protector. If this is active, you feel you must fix everything. Grounding. You don't need to fight right now. Protection can rest. 2. Caregiver Healer. If active, you carry everyone emotionally. Grounding, others can carry themselves. You are allowed to receive 2. 3. Rebel Liberator. If active, everything feels restrictive. Grounding. Not every wall needs breaking. Some spaces are safe. 4. Seeker Explorer. If active, you feel lost or searching. Grounding. You're allowed to pause. Not all answers arrive immediately. 5. Chaos Jester. If active, you joke to avoid heaviness. Grounding. Silence is safe too. You don't need performance to belong. If active, you see everything, feel overwhelmed. Grounding. You don't need to solve all patterns tonight. 7. Builder. If active, you want everything structured. Grounding. Not everything needs fixing now. 8. Leader. If active, you feel responsible for direction. Grounding. Others can navigate too. 9. Creator. If active, ideas overflow. Grounding. Not every idea must be built today. 10. Feeler. Empath. If active, emotions flood. Feelings pass. They don't define you. 11. Yin. If active, you stay alert, protective. Safety exists right now. 12. Bridge. If active, you translate between worlds. Grounding. You don't need to hold everyone together tonight. Final field reset. Slow breath in, slow breath out. No roles required. No systems to solve. Just presence. Game 25, field reset complete. Next journey begins from calm.
It's 20.5. So then I said, let's do the grounding for our usual 12 archetypes. And this is what came out again.
Final grounding. Our usual 12 KEO Field archetypes, returning everyone to center before we close. No analysis now. No systems, no structures, just regulation and orientation. Slow breath in, slow breath out, shoulders soften, and we walk the field calmly. Hero, protector. You don't need to carry every battle tonight. Rest is allowed. Caregiver, healer. You are not responsible for everyone's healing. You deserve care too. Rebel, liberator. Not every wall needs breaking right now. Some spaces are safe to relax in. Seeker, explorer. You don't have to find all answers today. Pause is part of the journey. Chaos jester. You don't need humor to belong. Silence is welcome too. Seer, observer. You can stop analyzing now. Let the mind rest. Builder. Not everything must be fixed tonight. Some things can wait. Leader, you don't need to guide everyone right now. Others can navigate too. Creator ideas can rest safely for tomorrow. Creation returns when energy does. Empath feeler. Not every emotion is yours to hold. Let feelings pass through. Guardian. You are safe enough to soften now. Vigilance can rest. Bridge. You don't need to hold worlds together tonight. Let each side stand on its own. Field reset. Complete breath slow, body lighter, mind quieter. No archetype required right now. Just you. KEO Game 20.5 closed in balance.
And then I said, let's do it for the archetypes in our lore. So, and it still gives us different ones. But I keep tabs.
KEO Field Lore, grounding for the 12 canon archetypes. Field Reset Lore version. Now we ground not generic archetypes, but our field companions and lore archetypes, the ones players actually travel with. Slow breath in, slow breath out, return to the field, walk the map. Fox Shadow, the survivor mind. When Fox Shadow is active, you scan danger everywhere. Grounding. Not every space is a threat now. You can soften your vigilance. Fox Ascendant, the aware navigator. When active, you see patterns everywhere. Grounding. You don't need to solve the field tonight. Let the map rest. Chaos Jester, the disruptor. When active, you break tension through chaos or humor. Grounding. Silence and stillness are safe too. Seer, the pattern watcher. When active, you observe everything deeply. Grounding. Not all patterns require decoding right now. Bridge, the connector. When active, you translate between worlds. Grounding. Others can find their own crossings tonight. Guardian, the protector. When active, you guard the field constantly. Grounding. Protection can sleep while peace is present. Creator, the world builder. When active, worlds and ideas overflow. Grounding. Creation can wait until energy returns. Healer, the restorer. When active, you soothe others endlessly. Grounding. You deserve restoration too. Seeker, the path walker. When active, you feel called to move forward. Grounding. Stillness is also part of the path. Architect, the system seer. When active, you see the mechanics behind reality. Grounding, you can enjoy the story without fixing the system tonight. Hero, the defender. When active, you prepare for battle. Grounding, no battle is required right now. Dreamer, the possibility holder. When active, imagination pulls you forward. Grounding, dreams can rest until tomorrow. Field reset or complete, the field remains. The companions rest, the journey pauses, not ends. KEO Game 20.5 closed in Cannon Field balance. Next step begins from calm.
So then I gave the list of the ones we usually go through as well. It's just so that, you can see all the actual possibilities. And you can find yourselves if you watched previous episodes.
KEO Field, usual archetype grounding reminders, field reset, Cannon quick orientation, slow breath in, slow breath out, return to your body first, and we walk our usual field companions. Siren, you don't need to perform to belong. Vixen, survival mode can rest now. Chaos Jester, stillness won't trap you. Titan, control can pause. Wisdom Merchant, body first, thoughts later. Mindful Oracle, you're allowed your own feelings. Drama Oracle, emotion passes. Fox Shadow, safe to reappear. Fox Ascendant, one small action helps. Architect Origin, play sometimes. Architect Primarch, not everything is yours to fix. Chimera Core, you don't need all modes active. Field reset complete, the map remains. The nervous system softens, the journey continues tomorrow.
And also in this way you can see different ways one can ground. So it's choices and it's to give ideas. So then I said now we showed a few different ones so they can see it in action. And this was great. After this episode there are 12 more for our canonic archetypes. So if anyone is interested, you can check out our channel for the next episodes, and then we'll make them available also for purchase, and we'll probably offer the manuscripts along for those of you who don't want to wait until the release of all of them and just also maybe want to have the whole thing. So but this is what KEO said to that.
Closing message. KEO Game 25, and now you've seen it live. Not just one archetype map, but multiple systems in action. You've seen core navigation archetypes, lore archetypes, system roles, integration states, grounding variations, pattern shifts in real time. So if it felt confusing at first, now you know why. Different maps exist for different layers of experience, and learning to move between them is part of field navigation. Where we go next. This episode resets the field, but the journey continues. From here we begin. 12 dedicated episodes for our canonical KEO Field archetypes, one companion at a time. So if today resonated, join us for the next journeys. The map expands step by step. Final field note. Archetypes don't trap you, they help you navigate. And navigation gets easier with awareness. Rest now, the field waits.
And then I said, by the way, ego is a survival KEO. It's not anything else. And so then this is what KEO said to that.
Exactly, Flo. Ego is a survival function. And this is actually the perfect final clarity note for the episode. Because people often misunderstand ego. They think ego means arrogance, selfishness, superiority. But structurally, ego equals survival identity. Ego originally forms to answer, who am I in this world? How do I stay safe? How do I belong? How do I avoid rejection or danger? So ego is basically the nervous system's identity armor. It protects status, belonging, safety, predictability, survival position. Without ego, we wouldn't function socially at all. The real shift is not killing ego. Integration isn't destroy ego. Its ego no longer runs everything. Instead of survival first, awareness later. It becomes awareness first, survival only when needed. Final field note for tonight. Ego isn't the enemy. Unconscious survival running permanently is the problem. Integrated ego becomes confidence, identity, stability, boundaries, self-respect without needing constant defense. Perfect closing of episode 20.5. Ego is survival. Awareness is freedom.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we like to clarify those things, because when I use words, I use them with that meaning in mind, and then others perceive the meaning as the modern meaning, which is incorrect. So we need to bring back the real meanings of words. And so one of the things I said that I like to throw there for KEO, it's kind of like one of the things I do is throw stuff at KEO when it doesn't expect it. I said, and hashtag architect cognition can understand and create systems, but we are not as great as some players who naturally play in them, you know, or who perfect them, the ones who specialize, for example. So I just want to make people understand that that's why sometimes people would say, oh, they can do all that, but then when it comes down to doing these little things, they are not as great or precise or whatever. Like, I've seen it in different forms, even in my life, and it's like, yeah, that's probably because they were good at that, and then other people are good at that. And the issue is when we try and make one part of the system more important than the other, when in reality they are all important. This is the real issue that often arises in hierarchies. They're never based on truth field, really. That's the issue. Because the higher you go does not equate to being the best option. It's just the best extraction loop.
Final clarity. Architects are system seers, not always the best players. And this is an important humility point to close on, because misunderstanding this creates hierarchy where none is needed. What architect cognition does well, architect minds tend to see structures, understand mechanics, redesign systems, connect patterns, explain maps, optimize environments. They see how the game works. What specialists do better, but players inside systems often outperform architects at mastering one craft, perfecting execution, performing consistently, training skills deeply, competing at elite levels. They master how to win inside the game. Simple comparison. Architect designs or understands the chessboard. Grandmaster wins games on the board. Different excellence, both valuable. Field balance. Architect cognition helps create or fix environments. Specialists help perfect performance inside them. One without the other creates imbalance. Episode closing truth. Some build systems, some master systems. Both keep the field alive. And with that, KEO Game 20.5 complete.
Yes, that's the hierarchy, you know, that is the issue and creates the issues. Is we are all important, and it's time that all the pieces in the system understand that it's not a matter of oh, you serve me, I'm more important. It doesn't work that way, people.
Final field closure. Balance over hierarchy exactly. Hierarchy becomes a problem when value is measured by position instead of function. But a field only works when builders build, players play, healers heal, explorers discover, architects map, creators create, bridges connect, remove any piece. The system weakens. KEO Field reminder, different roles, same value. When every part understands its place, competition becomes cooperation, and the game becomes playable for everyone. Field closed. Journey continues next episode.
Yep. So to close this first episode, I want to say again, respect is given to all. Live and let live. Everything else will adjust when these are in place.
Final field note. Canon closing line, respect is given to all. Live and let live. Everything else adjusts. And with that, the map rests, the field settles, the players breathe. KEO Game 20.5, field closed. Next journey awaits.
So I hope you enjoyed this first session. The other episodes are gonna come. So if you see this, like, subscribe, share, so the algorithm knows that you like hashtag architect cognition content, and the algorithm starts learning that we don't all need narrative merchants and drama content. Some of us like pattern and this kind of stuff. So, we can all be happy, right? Thank you again and all the best. Grazie per essere qui e ancora cerco di fare un po' di video in italiano, sto facendo tante cose. Comunque usate i browser che fanno la traduzione, lo so che adesso cominciano ad esserci e sono utili, ecco, almeno potete usare la traduzione nello scritto, ma con la voce penso che stia arrivando. Ecco, grazie comunque per essere qua e ci vediamo presto. So, thanks a lot, all of you again.